Hey guys, this is Fergal from PokerVIP.com. This is going to be the first of a series of coaching videos for NLHE Zoom within Pokerstars. So before I jump into the action, I'm just going to have a very quick rundown of the HUD stats that I mainly used throughout, because obviously I'll be referencing them a little bit during the session. So you can see my general HUD is just here. The first row that I have is your fairly standard stats, so it's VPIP, PF4, your global 3-bet stats, as well as your post-flop aggression. The turquoise blue colours then in the second row, we have raise first in by position for each position at the table. The two purple colours then at the end of the second row here, we have your global fold to 3-bet and your global fold to 4-bet statistics. The orange colours then in the third row, we have the amount that each individual is 3-betting versus each position, so how much they are 3-betting under the gun open, how much they're 3-betting a mid-position open, and so on. The green statistics then in the fourth row are how their flop c-bets tendencies essentially and how they react to c-bets. So the first figure is how often they are c-betting the flop themselves. The second figure is how often they are folding to a c-bet in a single raise pot. The third one is how often they're folding to a c-bet in a 3-bet pot. The fourth then is their flop donk bet figures. The white row colours then in the fourth row then are their turn c-bet statistics, so how often they are turn c-betting, how often they are folding to turn c-bets, and how often they are donking the turn. Then the blue colours on the fifth row are their steal stats, so how often they are stealing, how often they are folding to steals, how often they are re-stealing, and how often they are folding to re-steals. Then the bottom right of two figures we have when to showdown and we have one money at showdown. So we're going to be playing two tables. I'm just going to jump right in. I've been playing for a little while already, just getting a feel for 10NL because I haven't been playing it in the last little while. So just to get a bit of a feel for the player pool again. So we're up a little bit already. So we'll be jumping straight in. It's kind of cool that we have a deeper stack here. It means that we can get into some more interesting spots potentially as well. So for the duration of the video, we're going to be playing two tables. It's just going to be this setup. I'll be talking through my basic thought process as we go and just explaining a few key fundamentals that I feel significantly boost your chances of winning at 10NL. So the first thing, while we're waiting for a hand to get into, I'm just going to have a brief chat about my opening sizes. So I vary my opening raises based on what position I am in. So if I am, let me just see here with the 10-jack suit, I think we can just click call here. I don't think this guy is going to be back raising that often. So if I'm under the gun, I'm going to be 3xing it. If I'm in the mid position or in the cutoff, I'll be 2.5xing it. I min raise from the button, and then if I'm small blind versus big blind from the first act, I will be 3xing it as well. Those are my general strategies regarding opening sizes. We flop top pair here. I'm never considering folding. I am concerned about this guy's sizing though, that's for sure. Definitely not thrilled about it. If he bets a similar size again, I think we may just have a nitty fold on our hands. We shall see though. Hopefully this just goes check check now. We flop a pair here. We're going to be going ahead and betting it for protection. There's a lot of cards that we don't want to see that can come on the turn. That's not one of them. The jack is quite good. We're going to be betting again for value now. He has some worse nines, but not a huge amount. But he can also have heart draws, which is the main type of hand I'm targeting here. If he opts to raise us, we have a very straightforward fold then. Now it's just a case of whether we want to bet ourselves for value here. I don't feel that we do. I think we're just going to check it and click the check call. I'm not thrilled that this guy is led. It is what it is though. We're just going to click call. He's going to have a decent number of missed heart draws. I'm not going to be surprised if he shows us a jack by any stretch though. He does have the missed hearts, so that went well. Really interesting bet by this guy. I mean, I'm assuming he's not going to have many 4x at all. So this bet just seems more like a bluff to me than anything else. I'm not folding. He has a stronger ace. I'm surprised he chose that sizing when there was 4 to a straight on the board. It's a good bet by him for sure. When he went that large on that kind of scary board though, I felt it was a much more polarizing bet than it actually was. It turned out that he had actually a pretty reasonable hand. But far from the nuts. So I like his line there for sure. If he had gone if he'd gone a smaller sizing, I was never doing anything but just check calling there. But when he went that sizing, I was actually quite happy to call. I wasn't borderline. I was kind of thinking like, okay, this guy, there's 4 to a straight now. He just has ace high, and he's just looking to blow us off a pair on a scary board. That was my thought process. But obviously we stand corrected. As a general rule, we're going to be opening as wide as we possibly think we can get away with. 9 deuce suited on the button, though, is just not good enough. It can be, depending on the players in the big blinds. If we have people that are overfolding to steals in the big blind, we can definitely be widening our range to pretty much any 2 cards. But 9 deuce suited versus 2 unknowns in the big blind, I think would be too loose for sure. King Jack off here, it seems like a fine hand to be 3-betting as a bluff here to me. We've got a decent amount of blockers to his strong aces, as well as to a lot of his strong pairs as well. He's only min-raised from the button as well, so he hasn't shown much strength by any stretch. And just have a talk about my sizings regarding 3-bets as well. So my general rule of thumb will be, if we are in position and someone 3-bets us, we are going to be 3xing their opening size. So if they make it 30, we're going to be making it 90 when we're in position. If we're out of position, we are going to be 4xing it. So if someone makes it 30 and we're out of position, we're going to be making it 120 as a general rule of thumb. Now here we did size that up a little bit because we are nice and deep. Generally speaking, we're going to be sizing it up a bit when we are that bit deeper. So we have a decision now about where we want to go with this hand. If we're betting again, we're really targeting hands like kings and queens, which I think he's not going to show up with a huge amount. I think what we're going to do is just check this back and try to realize our flush draw equity. I think he's going to show us ace-x here an overwhelmingly large amount of the time, I think. Kings, he's almost certainly 4-betting a pre-flop. Queens do make some sense. He can definitely be playing the calling game with queens versus my 3-bet. But he can also, if he has queens, he can definitely have queens with the diamond as well, which just means we're essentially drawing dead. So we're just going to fold it here. We get raised here, which is quite nice. So we're just going to click call. The 10 I despise, the worst card in the deck by a mile for us. Still, we're not folding, but we've gone from a hand where we're going to be looking to get all of the money in to a hand where we're essentially bluff catching, really. He has checked it, so I need to figure out if there's any value at all in betting. I don't think that there is. I think if we bet, he's gonna be checking a 10 here a decent amount of the time, I think, rather than just leading it. So I think we're just going to check this back. He had 9 high, so obviously he wasn't going to be calling a bet anyway. Very strange line by him. I don't mind his flop raise by any stretch, and because it's that dry a board, and it's pretty tough for me to have connected as strongly with it as I did, I actually quite like his flop raise, but I think when he gets called, he should probably just be giving it up completely. I can't remember, I think he bet the turn as well, didn't he? This is actually a mistake, I meant to min-raise here, I just wasn't thinking. As I mentioned, my standard is to min-raise from the button. And we get 3-bet, we have a hand that can flop a very decent amount of strong top pairs. We're going to call it when we are in position. Very good flop for us. And we're probably just going to be calling down here. I don't see myself finding a fold at any point here. I'm not going to be thrilled if he triple barrels here though by any stretch. We're going to play the pot control game here and just check this back. And if he checks us again, we're going to be betting the river value. If he bets again, we're just going to be flat calling. So we can't go that large. We're not expecting this guy to show up with that many decent hands that can call our bet, so we need to make it reasonably small. Make it a manageable amount where he can try to pick us off. If he does have, say, a hand like ace-jack, for example, we want to make it an amount where he feels he's getting a good enough price to call. Queen 10 suited under the gun is a little bit of a loose open, but I think it's going to be okay. If it was offsuit, I'd be folding it, but I think the suited varieties are going to be absolutely fine to play. When he 3-bets us, he's 3-betting an under the gun open for the big blind. He should be very strong here almost always, and he's not deep enough, I think, for us to be calling profitably here. If he was as deep as we are, we could for sure be calling here, but when he's less than 100 BBs, I think we just need to find the fold, unfortunately. We were planning on opening here, but when it's open before us, we're just going to go ahead and fold. And we flop top pair here. We're just going to be going for 3 streets of value. People can definitely have a lot of worse aces there that they're willing to pay off multiple bets with. And again, it's the kind of board when we're out of position, it's going to be very tricky to get him to invest a huge amount of money as a bluff. So I think I prefer just betting there ourselves. We're going to be 3-betting our pocket 8s. Calling the eights in position is definitely a reasonable strategy as well, but I think I prefer when we have two options, I generally err towards the more aggressive option. We're going to go ahead and fire a single bet at this and expect to get a very decent number of folds. And we get called, which makes me sad, but it is what it is. We're just going to be check giving up now unless we bink an 8 on the river. I don't expect him to ever be check calling a hand like King Jack or anything like that, so I'm assuming that we're going to be beat here essentially always. But I just don't think he's going to have enough hands that we can fold out, especially when we've checked back the turn. I think even Queen X he's probably going to call on the turn. Here, this is a hand I would usually opt to 3-bet, but this guy's stack size has made it a little bit more awkward. He only has 40 BBs, so our plan was just to flop a top pair type hand and look to get as much money in the pot as we can. So we've paired up now on the turn, so we're gonna go ahead and start betting ourselves. And we're happy to 3-bet ace-10 suited for sure, even in position. We're going to fire here, and we're probably going to fire on most turns as well. Our range is extremely uncapped right now. 6 is kind of a sucky card for us to bluff, but I still think we're going to stick with our plan. We're going to fire small and then just unload on the river, I think. Ace is just beautiful card for us in general. Means though a lot of the hands that I was planning on folding out with the river bet here probably can't call on the ace, but we're gonna definitely go for value. As I said, I was planning on barreling that river with a lot of river cards also. I'm assuming he had some sort of weak overpair type hand there, and I feel that we're going to be able to fold them out quite effectively with a lot of runouts there on the river. Oh, almost made it too large there because we are in position. We're 3-betting our jacks to 90 rather than 120. Very good flop for us. We have a flush draw as well as a good overpair to the board, so we're going to be going ahead and betting here to be looking to extract value from any hand you can have that's kind of pocket 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, those types of hands. Not thrilled at all to get raised, but we're never folding here. We're just looking to get the money in. He flops a set, which is upsetting, but we still have the flush draw to go along with our outs, which we bink. I'm sure he's going to show us sets there sometimes, but he can definitely be overplaying a hand like 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s as well, so I'm absolutely fine getting it in there, especially when we have the diamond redraw to go along with it. If we didn't have the diamond there, I probably would have checked that flop back, but he was obviously going to be winning a decent amount of money there if no overcard to the jack had come on in that scenario. Interesting call by him pre-flop. I think that was going to be a losing call in general pre-flop. Generally speaking, you'd be looking to get odds of 20 to 1 or above when you're looking to call, especially calling 3-bets, even in position with low pocket pairs. Because there's just going to be too many times when you flop a set where you're not going to get max value anyway. Flopping a set is it's not guaranteed to win you the hand either, as we've just seen. So I think his pre-flop call there is definitely loose, but yeah, after the flop, I think the hand fairly plays itself. I like his check raise for sure, and then yeah, we're just getting the money in there essentially. There's not much more to be said about that. I generally don't tend to focus too much on the kind of the cooler situations where, you know, the money is just going in regardless of what we do. Essentially, there's no other way to play the hand in my opinion there. We're just getting it in for sure, and so is he. And after he makes the pre-flop call, he's never folding ever. So we just check down our 8s on the scary board, and they are good, which is always nice. This guy seems like he's going to be a reasonably okay-ish player. We've got a small enough sample, but in a pool as large as the 10NL pool, you're never going to be able to get a massive sample on people unless you're putting in absolutely huge volume, so you need to make do with the information you've got. And his stats over 70 hands definitely look like he's going to be a reasonably competent player. King 10, we're going to be opening from the cutoff. Again, this is a little bit loose, but I think it's going to be okay. My general rule of thumb when I'm looking at opening hands, if they're marginal, lean towards opening them, because I feel I've got a pretty decent edge over most of the players in this pool, so we want to be getting in as many post-flop hands as possible, because obviously post-flop is where you can extract the maximum amount of money. We're going to be we're going to check this back here for pot control and looking to induce bluffs. We are not checking our set though. Unfortunately, we are going to get a decent number of folds after he's checked to us, but we have to try. Not a fan of this jack at all over on the right table. We're just going to check it back and hope that our 10s are good, which they are. When we get check raised here, I think we're just going to click it back on this guy. It's hard for us to have a hand as strong as we do. He can definitely have a decent amount of king X here, and we don't want to just flat call, because he can also have a decent number of diamond draws, which we want to make sure we're charging the maximum. And we're going to be betting when check 2. We have a gut shot to the nuts, and we also have backdoor flush potential as well. And more importantly, we have the fold equity versus a lot of his pocket pairs type hands that he can have there. Good and bad flop. We obviously have a good pair, but there is an overcard to the board, but we also have the nut flush draw, so we're just going to check this back. We're not planning on folding just yet. We're going to call at least one street here. Dream flop over here on the right table for us. I'm not thrilled with this guy's sizing. It seems like he's going to have an ace here a decent amount of the time, but he's going to have some bluffs for sure. He has the ace that time. I'm not at all shocked to see that, but again, I think that's going to be a reasonably break-even call in the long run. Anyone who is in for less than half a stack, we're going to assume is pretty recreational, and anyone who's in for less than a full stack, to be honest, we generally assume that they're not going to be a reg-ish player. We're going to assume that they're going to be recreational more often than not. This is a pretty bad board for us. There's going to be a huge amount of over pairs that these guys can have. They probably aren't going to be folding to a single bet, and when we're out of position, I don't really want to have to be firing a huge amount of barrels into this in multi-way. We're going to check it back. Hopefully we'll get to see a free turn. We do not. We have a gut shot and we have 2 overs, and when we call, this guy is less than pot behind. This is close. I think having the backdoor heart draw makes this just about a call, but it's close for sure. Like ace king is going to be good on occasion. He can potentially have a hand like ace queen that he's just turning into a complete bluff. It's not all that likely though, and when he fires this, we're obviously just going to find the fold. Definitely a bit of a loose call on the flop there, but I think given the price that we were getting with the amount of equity that we had in the hand, I think we're going to be okay there. Like we had a gut shot with the backdoor nut flush draw, and we also have 2 overcards to any pair he can have. The only problem is that we can obviously have some sets, which, you know, we don't have as much equity or anywhere close to it, but if he has a set, then GG, sir. So we pick up the flush draw. I think this is a decent spot to go for an overbet here. It's pretty difficult for him to have a hand that has a king or a queen in it after he checks back that flop. He can have a lot of underpairs to the queen that we can for sure fold out with an overbet there. A smaller bet is probably going to do the same job, but we want to make sure that we're maximizing our fold equity there. And if we do get called, we can obviously still bink a flush. We're just going to call here and encourage some multi-way action with our suited ace. 3-betting would be a reasonable option as well, but I think I prefer just flat calling in position. We're going to start off with a check here, and if he checks to us twice, we're probably going to bet. When he leads out though, we're just going to fold. And we're obviously praying to get some action here with the ace-ace. Nothing so far, and we just take down the blinds, which could be worse. If we get called and lose a big pot, it's obviously going to be a lot worse than taking down the blinds. And we're going to be using this as a 3-bet hand from the button. We flop the world. We're going to go ahead, we're going to bet. We're not going to bet a massive amount, but we are definitely going to start off with a bet. And he just snap folds, unfortunately. So with the kings, we have an under the gun limper. If it's folded around to us, we're definitely going to be raising, and if someone tries to ISO the limper, we're going to be re-ISOing them for sure. So we're going to be making it 5x here now, and so this guy shouldn't have that much ace-x that he's limp calling. We're going to start this off with a check. The only hand that I'm really afraid of here is pocket 6s and pocket 5s. He's going to have some flush draws, but not that many. We're going to bet this hand for value now. And I think we go again a second street for value, I think. It's kind of hard to see how he has us beat here. Given that he snap folded there, I'm guessing he just had check fold enabled, so our decision didn't really matter. My guess is that he has some sort of heart draw that missed, or maybe some sort of gut shot that he decided to call a turn bet with. In which case, if he has those types of hands, primarily checking is obviously better, looking to induce bluffs. But I thought, in my head there, a decent chunk of his range consisted of kind of low to medium pocket pairs that haven't improved. So I think just trying to, I mean, it's going to be tricky. A lot of people are just going to find the fold, but we're trying to just maximize our value in every situation where we think we have the best hand, basically. So I do like our bet in general, but the check call would have been acceptable also. And again, we're going to be 3-bet bluffing the king-jack offsuit. And for sure squeezing a hand like jack-9 suited here. Make it a dollar on top, seems about right. We're nice and deep here as well, so we don't actually hate a call. Obviously we prefer just to get the folds through, but we have a hand that can flop very well, and we're 170 odd big blinds deep, which isn't the worst case scenario for us either. We're just going to defend here versus the min open, and we're looking Batman SO here. We're just going to be looking to get all of the money in versus him if he will oblige us, which he does not, unfortunately. The 9-queen suited is a decent candidate to defend our small blind with. I'm probably going to use it as a 3-bet bluff. We don't have much information on the opener, other than that's the first hand he's opened in 12. But that's not really much of a sample size that we can use. When it's 3-bet before us, we're just going to find the fold. It's not really the type of hand I want to be using as a 4-bet bluff. Although the min 3-bet is it's a really suspicious play in my book. When I say suspicious, I just think it's really bad. There's no hand where it is good with, in my opinion. If you're going to be 3-betting it, you really should be making it larger than the min 3-bet. If someone has a jack here, they're probably going to win themselves a decent sized pot from us. We're not going to be checking this one back. It's just a question of whether we want to raise this small bet or not. I don't think we do. I think we're going to check. We're going to call and see what Mr. Johnny here does, and then play turns accordingly. I think what I'm going to do is go for the bet fold. We want to be making sure we get value from his king X hands here, and I don't think he's ever check raising us here as a bluff. So if he does check raise, we can safely enough fold. And then we're going to be checking back every river that is not an ace. If he just flat calls, when he does check raise us, again it's a pretty easy fold in my book now. But I do think there is value to be had there versus his King X hands, which, with that line, I think he's going to show up a King X there a decent chunk of the time. We're going to be opening the King X if it's folded to us. We have one potentially seemingly competent player in the small blind, which is a bit of a concern, but we only have 33 hands in him, so we can't make that much of an assessment of his play in general. The big blind is an unknown, but I think King X is going to be okay to open from the button. That's one of the benefits of min raising the button. It means that we can get away with our steal. We can steal a lot wider because we're stealing for such a small price. And like people are just folding their blinds to an insane margin a lot of the time in these games. Like I mean, versus a min raise in the button, people should be calling not any two cards, but not a million miles off it either. Like they should be defending, let's say, 70 to 80% of their ranges, and people aren't doing anywhere close to that. We get squeezed. This guy seems like one of the more reggy players in the pool. I'm not willing. Oh, sorry, I thought we were suited there actually. I think King Queen offsuit we can probably fold. If we were suited there, I think we can click the call button, but offsuit I think we're going to fold it. As I said, this is one of the few players that we actually have a reasonable sample on, and he seems like he is one of the more competent, aggressive players in the pool. We're just going to call. If he was full stacked, we'd be using his hand as a 3-bet bluff, but I think here we can just call. One thing that I found when I was playing 10L, people aren't squeezing as much as in the higher stakes for sure. So we can definitely click call with a lot more speculative hands, like the lower pocket pairs, like the suited connectors, those types of things, without a massive fear of getting squeezed behind. Now, obviously here the button has raised us, and we've gotten 4-bet as well, so it's not an ideal example. But my general experience with 10NL games is that people aren't squeezing anywhere near to the same degree as they are in the higher stakes. So yeah, I think we can definitely be making the call to those more speculative hands for sure. Here versus Dexter, we have him marked as a potentially weaker player. We're not really looking to turn our ace into a bluff here. If we bet this turn, that's essentially what we're doing. It's going to be very difficult to get called by worse there. We now have 2 pair. I think we're going to put in a small raise for value here. Again, we have him marked as a weaker player, so he may be calling us worse. He has a set of queens, which is unfortunate, but I still think our raise there is going to be better than just flat calling with 2 pair. Interesting that he bet the flop and then didn't bet any later streets after he hit his set. Feel like he could have guaranteed himself more money there. As I said, that river raise is definitely a little bit thin, but I think like thin value is what it's all about. Like people will pay you off with all sorts of nonsense, and people play very honestly. It's very rare that people like he's never 3-bet bluffing me there, for example, on the river. So if he does re-raise me, it's a very easy fold. But I think he's definitely got enough kind of stronger aces that haven't got 2 pairs in them. Some of his Queen X he may try to hero call, but I don't think that's overly likely. It was mainly the stronger aces there that I was targeting that did not improve to 2 pair or better. And I don't think many people in the pool are folding kind of hands like say Ace King or Ace 10 there. Which, given the way he played the hand, are definitely plausible hands that he can have. We're going to be 3-bet bluffing the Queen 10 off. We get 4-bet. Again, these things do happen. We just fold and move on to the next hand. It's not something that I'm going to be worried about too much. No action, unfortunately, on the Ace King 7 board with our top pair. We're going to be folding the 4 deuce. Yeah, we are. We don't know. That's again, that's the type of hand we can definitely extend out if we know that the blinds are overfolding, but we didn't have much information on them. And we're going to be using the suited king here as a 3-bet bluff. Although no, we're not. I think we are going to call though versus this guy. It was a stack size there that was the main factor for me not using that as a 3-bet bluff. Someone with that sort of stack size is going to be way too happy to get the money in with a lot of his kind of ace-x hands, which is not good for us. Not in love with the queen, but I think we're going to call down when we've hit a pair here, I think. So our king 4 is good. So he has a hand like ace-6, and I mean, again, when someone is in for like between 30 and 40 BBs, that's definitely the type of hand that they can end up just going with. They just decide, you know what, I have an ace, he probably doesn't, let's go with their hand. So I think 3-betting ace-6 versus that size of stack is going to be a mistake. Against a full stack, though, I think it's going to be an absolutely fine play. We're now going to be betting for value with our second pair. There's a huge amount of draws that can be had on that board, diamond draws, gut shots, open-enders, and so on. And he can have some worse jack-x as well that may call. I'm not really concerned about him having a queen after the flop has been checked through. I would assume if he has a queen that he would probably end up betting it himself on the flop. He was the pre-flop aggressor, I believe, in that hand. I need to go back and review that to be sure, though. Decent flop for us. We're just going to start off. Actually, we're going to size up a little bit here. We're really just going to be going for maximum value versus worse aces. This is very upsetting. I mean, on this dry board when we're multi-way, I just assume that my hand is going to be absolutely toast here. Like, we're three-handed. This guy is thrown in a raise on the driest board known to mankind. The only kind of bluffy hand he can have here would be a hand like 7-8. I don't think he's doing this with a worse ace than me. I'd be very surprised if he was. So as nitty as it feels, I think we're just going to click the fold button there. That's a hand I think that a lot of people are probably going to continue on, and I think it's going to be a losing play there in general. Like, as I said, if it was heads up, it would be a bit different, but the fact that it was multi-way, and as I said, there's just so few hands that he can be doing that for with the bluff, it just seems like it's going to be a pretty clear-cut fold to me. Like, even if he has a hand as strong as ace-jack, is he really going to be raising it there? I mean, I feel he's probably just going to be in check call mode with most of his single aces. Or calling, rather, he was in position. Nothing can be done but to fold the 10-5. We open under the gun and we get 3-bet under the gun +1 again. People don't tend to be doing this as a bluff ever, so we're just going to be folding the king-queen. We're going to use this as a squeeze opportunity. There's just too much dead money here. Like, the small blind here should never have a decent hand. There's only a min raise from the cutoff, so he hasn't exactly shown much strength himself. So we're going to go ahead with the squeeze, and then we should be able to play somewhat profitably post-flop as well. We're going to start this off with a bet, and we're going to be firing 2 streets here, and then giving up. So the reason we're firing 2 streets is here. I'm expecting him to take this line with a lot of his middling pocket pairs. Now, he's obviously going to have some pocket 5s and pocket 7s here, but not a huge amount. And I think like his unimproved pairs are probably going to be folding. I think we're going to go ahead and fire again here. The ace is just a particularly great card for us to barrel, given the type of hands that I expect him to show up with here. It's a really, really nice card. If the ace hadn't come there, my plan was to check back, but just when the ace hit there, that changed. Like, as I said, I think his range there is going to be really heavily weighted towards unimproved pocket pairs under the king after he's called 2 streets. And as I said, the ace is just an excellent card for us to fire in as a bluff. So fortunately we got away with it. We're just going to be folding the 8-4, and ace-queen will definitely be played, or almost definitely. We're going to be 3-betting. We're going to be 3-betting quite small here. This guy is incredibly short. We're more than happy to get the money in versus him. So we don't need to go as large as we normally make it. We can just go sort of 2.5x and expect him to jam in most of his hands here. If anyone else comes back over the top of us, then we have a decision. I wasn't expecting this guy to flat call ever. This call has me quite concerned because my assumption is that this guy knows this guy is going to be jamming quite wide. Like, this guy is a platinum star, so we're going to assume that he is at least somewhat competent. So we're actually just going to check back here. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy is slow playing quite a strong hand. It wouldn't surprise me at all. We're betting our top pair with our open ender now. I would like this guy to get the money in because I would be curious to see what this guy shows. Like, as I said, I would not be at all shocked to see if him show up with a really strong pocket pair there that he has this ace king. No, ace queen, buddy. We're going to be opening the king 6. And if that is what he was doing, if he had a very strong hand, I really like his line there because, as I said, that short stack really should be jamming the money in there quite wide. So if he has a really strong value hand, I'm probably going to be calling his jam, and then that means that he can back raise it really, really profitably if that's what his plan was. So it's always like when you're looking at the ways to play hands, it's really, really important to be looking at the various stack sizes and realizing what sort of impact different stack sizes have on hands. In general, having someone that short in a hand is just annoying as hell. You can end up with some really, really unfortunate situations where hand dynamics just change entirely. And it can be very difficult to extract value from larger stacks with a short stack in the pot because obviously they're assuming the short stack is going to be going in reasonably wide, so they're less prone to bluffing and so on. So play just ends up kind of becoming, people just tend up to play very, very honestly in multi-way pots when there are short stacks involved, which when you have speculative hands are really, really bad because what you want is people to be making kind of post-flop plays at you for when you've hit. You don't want people playing honestly if it's like, you know, if you've got 6-7 suited and the board comes, if you flop a 7 high straight, you don't want people to be playing really honestly. You want people willing to make crazy plays of the pot. So that's where you'll extract most of your money there. Uh, 10-5, we're just going to fold. We're more than likely going to be playing the Queen 10 suited. I don't think I want to squeeze this hand. I think I'm happy just to call and play a multi-way pot. Even completely out of position, I think this is going to be okay, just a flat call. Bizarre line by this guy, whatever he has. We're going to be marking both these players as suspicious players. We're obviously just going to be folding. I'm curious to see what Narinda here does, though. We're going to be firing once here with our gut shot, and then we're not planning on continuing if anyone continues. Unless we bink our gut shot, obviously. My general line of thinking here is that because it's multi-way and it's a reasonably scary board, we should get a decent amount of respect. So we should be folding out a lot of their 8x, 9x hands. We're obviously not folding out many of their draws, which they're going to have a decent amount of. But I think that bet's going to be okay. Maybe we could have just checked this one, but I think it's going to be all right in the long run. King Queen, perfect hand to be using as a 3-bet. We block a lot of his strong aces and a lot of his strong pairs. Easy open with the ace queen, obviously. We're, depending on how the action goes here, we may end up playing the queen deuce suited. I think it's going to be a hand I'm going to use as a 3-bet bluff, especially when this guy flat calls behind. There's just enough dead money in the pot here to make this profitable for sure. We're just going to check back the ace queen here. It's multi-way. It's a reasonably well connected board. I don't think a bet here is going to get enough folds to warrant making it. So we're just going to try to get our ace queen to showdown here. We pick up the heart draw, which is quite nice, but obviously it's not a great heart draw. There are better potential ones out there. When this guy leads, I think, yeah, we're just going to give this up. I don't think we have enough equity there to continue profitably. Again, perfect squeeze opportunity here. This guy calls, which is quite interesting. We're going to fire once here just to fold out his kind of random overcards that he can have, like 10-jack suited, those types of hands. So we're going to go ahead with the bet. He snap calls us here, so I'm thinking there's a pretty decent chance he's going to have some sort of middling pocket pair, like pocket sevens, pocket eights. We're just going to check it back here. We bink the king, which is really nice. If he leads out here, we're going to have a decision, though. When he checks it, we've got an easy bet on our hands. We're going to be 3-betting or 4-betting our queens, are we? Yes, 4-betting our queens. We're going to be making it really, really small here so that this guy can get the money in and we can potentially rejam if this guy is just flat called. Really, really easy, just c-bet get it in versus z-vone now. So he calls down with pocket twos, which is a fairly questionable play in my book. Unfortunately, he runners the straight, so we chop that one up. So we lose some equity there, but however, not the end of the world. We got it in profitably, and that is all that we can do. At least he didn't hit a deuce. If he'd hit a deuce and we'd lost money, that would have been more upsetting for sure. We're just going to call here. Again, this guy's stack size makes it a little bit more awkward to use this hand as a 3-bet bluff. When the ace rolls off and it's checked to us again, I think we're just going to go ahead and bet. And here we're just going to be raising and getting the money in. We have top pair and we have a flush draw, so there are no hands really that we're afraid of. Even if he has a better queen than us, we're still incredibly live. If he has a set, we're not thrilled, but again, we are incredibly live. If he has an overpair, we're, I think, a favorite in that situation. At least it's definitely close to 50-50, so yeah, we're just definitely raising there and looking to get as much money in the pot as we can, as quickly as we can. And again, we're going to just continue this squeeze strategy until we're given a reason not to. I probably actually should have made this a little bit larger, given that we are nice and deep with these guys. Actually, everyone at this table is super deep. Wow, this has the potential to be a very interesting pot. This is quite the flop for us. We flop the world. So the types of hands here that I'm afraid of, people can definitely have hands like pocket tens, pocket jacks, and so on. This guy leads. I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to call and try to keep this guy in the pot. Seems like a reasonable plan of action to me. I think raising is a little bit of an overplay here, but not by an incredible margin by any stretch. Now we have a decision. So what I'm assuming is that this guy has a set very, very often. The problem is that this guy can definitely have a flush draw, and some of his flush draws have us dominated. We're going to click call and see where the turn brings us. We're now going to be folding, because I think almost always we're going to be drawing dead here when he check raises us like this. He's going to show us pocket tens or pocket jacks almost always. Interesting to see what this fella does. So yeah, we're just going to fold. We're going to watch this hand, and this is actually going to mark the end of the session. So this is a really interesting hand to close it out. As I said, I'm 99% sure this guy is going to show us pocket tens or jacks here. If this guy folds, I'm very confused. What's he thinking about? Wow, I guess he just must have had the ace high flush draw there. So that was a very interesting pot. We definitely could have played it more aggressively on the flop, but I think that's going to be a mistake when we get check raised like that. As I said, we're almost always going to be behind. So I think we're going to, when we almost know for a fact what our opponent has there, we can very profitably just call and then get it in when we improve, essentially. The only thing I wouldn't have known what to do would be if the diamond hit and the shorter stack got more aggressive. But however, it was still an interesting pot to close out the session. As I said, this has been Fergal from PokerVIP. We'll be continuing this series with more videos in the future. If you liked what you saw, make sure to leave some comments. Any feedback, positive or negative, would be greatly appreciated. I hope all you guys enjoyed. Take it easy now.